student does not want to spend another 2 years in study and they want to work in the industry after their B.Tech in civil, what choices do they have?
Do structural designs. They can also do civil designs, whatever interests them. Supposing
Hmm.
they want to do plumbing and drainage scheme and fire. Fire also
Hmm.
has two components. You must be aware that one is the plumbing part, the other is the fire
Hmm.
prevention, which is an
Right.
electrical engineer's domain. So that is also an excellent option. Then civil engineers can actually do training in project management or construction supervision. They can be good site engineers. They can be at any project site, which is a very interesting domain to be in. And
Hmm.
once doing a residential project, then you can move on to a commercial building. You can move on to an airport or an industrial project. Civil engineering can also lead you to structural engineering. If you
Hmm.
like doing that, then you can pursue your M.Tech later as a part
Yeah.
time student, or even take a
Okay.
break for 2 years and do your M.Tech. It all
Hmm.
depends, on personal preferences, personal circumstances.
Right, right. So you mentioned Revit, but BIM is quite booming in India also, right? I mean, it's coming slowly.
It's a bit too slow.
It's a bit too slow, but it should be faster.
It definitely has tremendous advantages, but the biggest disadvantage that it is complicated. And if traditionally or typically our Indian environment sees a lot of architectural changes from A
Yeah.
to B, the project undergoes so many revisions
Hmm.
that BIM environment or BIM engineer
Mm-hmm.
invariably ends up entering the changes only after they have been made in the AutoCAD drawings by various discipline stakeholders. He's not the lead, because the architect just happily goes on changing. Be it the
Yeah.
client wanting a change, be it the
Yeah.
interiors guy wanting a change, or a hotel operator asking for a change, or a fire approver. The changes keep happening. And
Yeah.
in that environment, any software like Revit or BIM takes a backseat because you want everything tomorrow. You've given
Yeah.
me a drawing today with the revisions and you want everything tomorrow. You don't realize that I have to take those changes, go back to my STAD or ETABS model,
Hmm.
incorporate those changes, check whether my deflections and drift and other limits, mass participation, everything is in order after the changes are carried out, which is a very intense exercise. Only then I can incorporate them in the drawings and give it to you. So, what my complaint to an architects is that they do not realize what exactly a structural engineer does. We are not just making drawings. We do a whole lot of work in our back office, which is a very intense involvement.
In engineering, hardcore engineering, we see a little less of women even today.
Well, I think it is a personal choice and probably lack of awareness as to what exactly is a structural engineer doing in a design office. People don't get to know that. In
Hmm.
general, you must know, that there is very little awareness about what
Hmm.
we do in real life.
Hmm.
Hardly, when the project begins at site, our work is mostly over in the design office. So we do end up making couple of visits to the site sometimes when the client wants us to meet the
Hmm.
contractor or give any queries, resolution or anything. But otherwise, our work is primarily in a design office. So many girls opting for engineering do not realize that civil
Hmm.
engineering is a good choice, fairly good choice, and it gives you a lot of options. You need not do only structural engineering of buildings. You can be a bridge design engineer. You can end up designing ports and harbors. You can design airports. You can design so many new fields are coming up, opening up as
Right.
options. And I do not wish to limit my discussion only to women because I think profession needs fresh blood, good engineers
Right.
who are good
Definitely.
in basics, who have
Huh.
good some basics.
Hmm.
So they can do well at site. I think there are a lot of good
Hmm.
opportunities for people who
Right.
want to do a government career. But people who are not looking for a government career, private sector is quite wide open, right from Atkins and ACOM and WSP and L&T. Look at L&T. But
Right.
unfortunately, we don't have an engineering council like Council of Architects, and we don't hold our engineers accountable. We don't give our engineers a license to practice, so they are not
Hmm.
scared of losing that license if a building falls. I think that is something which is a big रीजन फॉर सच थिंग्स हैपनिंग आप अगर
Hmm.
मैंडेट कर दें कि आप कॉलेज से निकले आपको इंजीनियरिंग काउंसिल में एग्जाम देना है और आपको
Huh.
अपना पी लाइसेंस लेना है ये तभी हो सकता है व्हेन आवर पार्लियामेंट enacts an engineers bill like it
Hmm.
enacted
Architect.
I think it happens in all professions where you're interacting with a lot of new clients and you're working on new projects you don't know those people how
Hmm.
credible or how good paymasters will they turn out to be so I
Right.
think it's okay.
But what I have seen is, at least in branches like civil and mechanical, even today, only what 5 or 10% are women. Rest all women go into mostly creative fields. So in architecture, we see a lot of women. In landscape design, in interior design, we see a lot of women. But in engineering, hardcore engineering, we see a little less of women even today.
Well, I think it is a personal choice and probably lack of awareness as to what exactly is a structural engineer doing in a design office. People don't get to know that. In
Hmm.
general, you must know, that there is very little awareness about what
Hmm.
we do in real life.
Hmm.
Hardly, when the project begins at site, our work is mostly over in the design office. So we do end up making couple of visits to the site sometimes when the client wants us to meet the
Hmm.
contractor or give any queries, resolution or anything. But otherwise, our work is primarily in a design office. So many girls opting for engineering do not realize that civil
Hmm.
engineering is a good choice, fairly good choice, and it gives you a lot of options. You need not do only structural engineering of buildings. You can be a bridge design engineer. You can end up designing ports and harbors. You can design airports. You can design so many new fields are coming up, opening up as
Right.
options. And I do not wish to limit my discussion only to women because I
Hmm.
think profession needs fresh blood, good engineers
Right.
who are good
Definitely.
in basics, who have
Huh.
good some basics.
Hmm.
So they can do well at site because you need good engineers who know their basics, who know all the operating parameters for good concrete, for good steel detailing, good construction at site. And as they grow, the salary or the remuneration grows pretty well. And at the end of, let's say, 10 years, good
Hmm.
site, as well as a good structural design engineer or a civil engineer working in, let's say, plumbing or drainage schemes or large water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, or even designing plumbing and drainage for townships. These are all excellent career options. They lead you to a good pay package at the end of 5-year period. I see the demand has far outgrown supply. So these
Hmm.
salaries are much higher. The remuneration is much higher. It's a very attractive career for any girl or boy who's willing to become an engineer.
Hmm.
You should be honest to yourself while you're studying. Get
Hmm.
a grasp of the basics. Basics अच्छे होने चाहिए. When you're designing, you should not be just a computer operator or a STAD operator or a ETABS operator. Your basic, as
Hmm.
you grow, as you develop engineering sense, which I think feel of the whole design process, you develop that with time, but having good basics is really essential. So when we are
Hmm.
in college, I would encourage our young friends to be sincere and learn the basics well, and then go in for a MTech structures if they want to be structural design engineers. Look at being familiar with the Bureau of Indian Standard Codes. Unfortunately, I think our colleges are still not teaching them about Bureau of Indian Standard Codes.
So, how much salary can a fresher expect, and how does that package change? Like, probably they have an experience of 3 to 5 years. How does that package change?
I think it varies from firm to firm and it varies with the kind of work a firm is doing. If we are purely structural design engineers, we are not in a position to pay as much as a PMC company will be paying. You are aware that project management is another good option for
Right.
civil and structural engineers both.
Hmm.
So the pay packet varies from a small boutique company like ours to a big MNC like ACOM or Atkins
Hmm.
or whatever. But I think minimum 25 to 30,000 per month is the minimum you can
Hmm.
expect if you've done your MTech in structures or MTech in any relevant discipline. And within 5 years, it can jump to at least a lakh of rupees.
Hmm.
The
Okay.
movement or
Yeah.
the enhancement is pretty rapid. Experience, you can easily ask for 1 lakh per month, and other perks are,
Hmm.
perks
But
vary.
you mentioned that this is after MTech. This is not after BTech, is it?
See, I think a structural design engineer must do MTech structures if he wants to be good in his work. Because
Okay.
a lot of good understanding comes when you do your MTech, especially with respect to the details of design, details of detailing, and steel structures and industrial structures. And a lot of these subjects or topics are not covered at B.Tech level. So I would recommend that anybody who's going to follow a structural design field should
Mm-hmm.
probably think of doing it side by side only. After BTech, just go in for finish it off, and then start working. Otherwise,
Hmm.
people like me, I did my MTech much later, when I was working in rights. So that
Okay.
can also be done these days that you start working and you keep studying side by side as a part-time
Hmm.
student. But it's not easy. I mean, it's not
Hmm.
easily done, especially after you get married, you have family responsibilities. Yeah, so it becomes more and more difficult with time. You see, it's natural. I think these are natural desires for anybody. And then every week or every fortnight, at least they can go and party. Uh, every youngster wants to do that. I don't blame them for doing that. All I'm trying to say is that after putting in a few good years in your profession, you will be able to do that. As an
Hmm.
engineer, you do earn a decent amount of money. It's not that you're bankrupt or a hand to mouth existence. And touch wood, by God's grace, I'm in a position where a BMW or a Tesla or doesn't appear to be inaccessible. So I
Right.
don't. Luxury is affordable once you're in a good profession with a good salary.